Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Author Collaborative. As always, I'll be talking to an author whose book I have recently read and enjoyed. My guest today is author Siddharth Nirwan, and I had discussed this book in another segment of my Instagram lives that I do. I had discussed the book with three of my Bookstagram friends, and it was a wonderful experience reading the book. And today, the author is also coming on this show, which is the Author Collaborative, and I'm really excited to talk to him about it. The book is Night at Hi Siddharth. Hi Sukena. Thank you for joining. So Siddharth is going to be here with us in some time, and we are going to discuss his book Night at the Medical Campus. It's a horror genre book, and I don't generally read horror because I'm a very easily scared person, and I read this, so I want to talk about what this book managed to do with me. I mean, was I scared or not? How was the experience of reading it? And we are going to talk to Siddharth about how he went about writing the book. It's going to be a fun session too, so please stay connected. I think Siddharth is here, so I'm just going to invite him. It didn't go through. Let me send another one. Okay, I sent you a fresh invitation, Siddharth. See if you received that. Me writing a horror book. Oh my god! Please don't do that. Please don't do that to a person with a weak heart.
So that was my introduction,
Yeah.
and that was the
Hi,
introduction for this
Siddharth.
show.
Welcome.
Am I
Yes.
audible?
So now, right away, we know what to expect.
Absolutely. How's my voice
Welcome,
now?
welcome to the Author Collaborative. Yes,
How's
sorry, you were saying something?
how's my voice? Am I clear?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, you are clear. So,
Okay.
welcome to the Author Collaborative. Thank you for joining me. And before I start the episode, I want you to briefly introduce yourself to the audience first.
Okay. So uh, where to start the introduction from? Okay. So I'm basically by profession I'm a doctor. I'm an ENT and head and neck surgeon. I am working at the post of associate professor at SMS Medical College, Jaipur, Rajasthan, India, and I also have this passion because of which I am here right now is to write books, and I have written four books have been published till now. One of them, the first was self-published. The second was taken up by Audible. The third and the fourth were traditionally published. Another book is coming later this year. I mean, in the next year, and with a big publisher, and already completed two or three more books. And I'm thinking of different ideas nowadays to go with the more on the publishing side rather than the writing side. So that's pretty much, I think. So kindly
Love.
introduce yourself, although your followers already know you.
No, this is all going to be about you. But still, I'll just introduce myself a little bit. I am an author and a freelance writer and editor, and I'm also a blogger. And we are going to talk about me later now. Now, coming to your book, Night at the Medical Campus, I was also already saying that, I already mentioned it in my caption also for the episode that I don't read this genre at all. I mean, I avoid it at all costs because I am a scaredy cat. Reading and watching horror gives me sleepless nights, and it's just I avoid it. But since it was October and I was looking for a Halloween special read, this book was suggested to me, recommended by Siddhant. Siddhant Agarwal is also here. He's a very good friend, and he recommended your book, and I ended up reading it. But what I want to say is, while I was reading it, I was very proud of myself because while reading, I was not scared at all. Okay, I was like, okay, this is a very normal book. It's about a group of friends who are at college, and it's a fun read. There's nothing to be scared about. You can do this, Manali. And I read it. Okay, I read the horror parts also. But after I read the first horror scene, I mean, the big major horror scene that comes into the book, and I was like, okay, ho gaya, I'll continue tomorrow. And then I closed the book, reading for the day. What happened was, after reading that particular part, I was done with my work. I was doing the normal household chores, and I had to go out for a while. I live in the Netherlands, so we have a backyard in the house, and I had to go outside to the shed to get something. And it was already dark. I went out, and I am not generally scared because, as I mentioned, I generally avoid reading such books because मुझे पता है मैं अकेली होंगी तो मैं डरूंगी. So the same thing happened again. I went outside, it was pitch dark, and somehow the light of the shed was also not getting on. And immediately that scene came to my head. We are going to discuss that scene later, what particular scene that it was that came to my head and what I imagined was there with me in that dark shed at night. So I just want to say that while reading, I wasn't scared, but after reading the book, I mean, this particular thing kept happening with me that the scenes came back to me, and I was haunted for many nights. So that's just goes to show how well you have written it. I just wanted to say that while reading, you don't feel anything, but that image is somehow imbibed in your mind, and it stays in your head and comes back to haunt you when you're alone, especially in the night. And it's completely dark. So that's what your book managed to do for me. And now, without further ado, first let me show the cover to everyone. The book that we are discussing, Night at the Medical Campus. This is the book that we are discussing, and I'm going to read out that one particular scene which managed to spook me out and came back to me later on when I was alone. Okay, so this is from the chapter called The Hangover, and it comes a little later into the chapter, and I'm going to read out right before that particular scene. This is where the group of friends are discussing about going to a movie. Siddharth, who was looking for Simran, joined the gang. Hi guys, did you hear the news? He appeared anxious. What? Asked all of them simultaneously. Someone informed the dean about last night. He has formed a committee to look into the matter. They are searching for the miscreants who broke the lock and entered the compound. Correction, dude, replied Varun. First of all, no one broke the lock. Bhola opened it. Secondly, the dean cannot catch us by any means as no one saw us exiting or entering our hostels last night. And of course, the seniors won't admit to their part in it unless they want to get expelled from the college. What about Bhola? What if he opens his mouth? Asked Mishika. He won't. His job is at risk if he does. Anyway, Roshni brought him. It's her business to take care of him, not ours, replied Siddhant. Hey, look, Manjari madam is coming this way. I think she has noticed us missing from our table. Simran pointed towards assistant professor and the staff in charge of the dissection. When Simran was preparing to leave, she felt a hand grasp her left wrist. She said in a low voice, Sid, don't hold my hand here. People are watching. What did I do, Simran? Simran turned around to see Siddhant standing far away from her. If not for her boyfriend, who else had the guts to hold her wrist? A shrill scream emanated from her throat as she found the culprit, the cadaver on Mishika's table. It was staring at her with its eyes wide open. And that was the particular scene that haunted me, and I visualized that cadaver in my shed holding my hand also, and I ran from there. I was like, I sent my husband to get whatever was required from the shed, and I told him, मुझसे तो नहीं होगा भाई आज. So yeah, that was my experience, and based on my reading, Siddharth, I have a couple of questions for you. Are you ready to answer those?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So my first question to you is, I've read the book and it has a multiple of characters. I want to know from you which character was the most difficult to write. I mean, of course, the obvious answer would be Sanya because she's the person जिसके आजू बाजू पूरा कहानी है. But I'd also love to know about other characters besides her that were very difficult to write. And what was the challenging and fun part to create the character, their backstories?
See, I'll give a very different answer to this. I know this is a very standard question to be asked, but for me, these characters are not characters; they are people, and I don't, typically what we hear in the master classes of writing, and how to craft your plots and create characters and make them compelling and all those things. Uh, it comes somehow naturally to me, and I don't find it at all difficult or easy also. For me, all the stories which I have written until now, they have been stories, in my opinion, they are out there. These people are out there, and part by part, bit by bit, they just show to me. So when I visualize this story just came to me almost as a whole. I must just tell you about it a little bit about it. That this story is actually inspired by a true incident in a medical college. What is this incident about? So during my posting, when I was selected as a lecturer in the Public Service Commission examination, and I was appointed as an assistant professor in a medical college. So when I joined that college, somebody told me the story about this incident that happened in that college. So in that college, basically in second year, there was this guy who loved this girl, and the girl considered him to be his best friend, but the guy was definitely madly in love with her. So it happened one day that out of rage, this guy basically who was having maybe some kind of mania or something like that. He appeared in the class with a knife. He stabbed the girl right in front of everybody, and after that, the girl tried to run away from here, but the boy followed him and he stabbed her repeatedly until she died. And then this guy goes on the top of the hostel and he jumps from there and commits suicide. So when somebody told me the story incident, this entire story just formed in my mind. The roof from which this guy committed suicide and jumped and committed suicide. A couple of days later, I was having party over there. The kind of parties that we have in the night
Hmm.
time. So this story just came naturally to me. So this is what my answer is that unfortunately I'm not able to tell how to craft the plot and create characters, make them compelling. These people, for me, they are living and breathing people. Some of them are dead, obviously, but they come to me. The character of PC, I will tell you, Professor Chandrasekhar, is as it is. So there was this professor of anatomy called Professor Humbarwadi. He's still alive. He's still there, and he was as it is, except for the tantric part. Everything was there as it is. So some of the questions that have been asked in the introduction and some of the things about him, they are as it is. I haven't done anything, so I can say that was the easiest to write. But that is
Hmm.
about my writing process. I just visualize the
Okay.
story. Comes in parts. I arrange them, and and then I just present them. So I don't know whether it's good or bad or whatever it is. That is me presenting, telling the story as it is. That is a very honest answer.
Basically, you let the stories come to you instead of the other way around. You let the stories come to you.
Yeah. Somehow, and many writers will actually tell you this, that the story is out there, and they just act as a vessel to collect the story and to present to the reader. And so that's why I don't do any kind of change in the story, whether it's for good or bad. If there is something, people say that the ending should be like this or like that, and why did this happen, that happened, why did she died and he died, and
Hmm.
she shouldn't have died and he shouldn't have died during that scene. So that's I'm completely I don't have any control over that. So even if
Okay.
I want to change, it will happen that way. So this is what I do. So that's the answer to this.
Okay. So we have a question from Siddharth. He has asked, since both of your books have had characters who die, how difficult is it to write those scenes?
So first of all, let me just say, I think Siddhant is the name of the guy whose girlfriend dies in the book. So that's why he's very sentimental about people dying, I think. Again, as I told Siddhant, first of all, I met Siddhant last year at GLF 2024. So that was a fantastic meeting. And so again, for me, it's not difficult, killing scenes and all these dying scenes, obviously to a horror writer, it will come naturally and it will come, in a very joyous manner. So this
A
is what
joy.
horror writers like to do. Yeah. This is what we like to do. See, I cannot go out and kill somebody on the street, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I'll be behind the
Hmm.
bars. But in my books, I can. So I do a lot of that in my books.
Okay. Okay. So this brings me to my next question, which is that there are obviously many horrific and fear-inducing scenes throughout the book. Take us through the process of at least two or three. I mean, what inspired them? how they came about, and how long did the final version of those scenes take for you to, draft out?
Okay, so I'll tell about this one particular scene. I think you're talking about the chapter in which Simran dies. Okay, so that's maybe a spoiler, but yeah, Simran dies, right? So that scene actually took me some time because dissection rooms. I'll tell you something about it because in this entire story, dissection room is a very important place.
Yeah.
I don't know for people outside people who are not visited, it's a mysterious thing. But when we entered the dissection room for the first time, the response was literally what I have showed. That is our response. What I showed in the second chapter, how these MBBS guys on the very first day are taken to the dissection room and they see this. In my college, in my dissection room, because it was a little close to Goa, there were a lot of dead bodies because from Goa, a lot of unclaimed dead bodies come, right?
Hmm.
So there were like literally some 30 dead bodies lying in front of you, right? And you haven't seen any dead body before that. You're just coming from the 12th class and suddenly you see 30 dead people in front of you. So your mind is like shocked, it's boggled. And it takes a lot of time for us to become acquainted with that place.
Hmm.
Later on, we do have birthday parties in the dissection room. Yeah, we do,
Oh my
have
God.
fun activities. That's a different thing. But dissection room is a very important part in any doctor's life because everybody goes through that phase. So writing a entire scene that was based on the dissection room, and this girl is coming, and this was maybe a little bit tricky for me. How do I maintain the again, one thing is that cadavers are very much respected by us because they actually are people who have donated their bodies or whose body have come. So they are not like a piece of maybe experiments, just like that. Although we do. So how to maintain the dignity of the cadaver and how to employ him or her in that scene? Because in the end, the I'll not say the hero, but the main person who takes over the entire scene is that cadaver who brutally assaults and kills Simran. So that is my favorite
Hmm.
scene actually, because she dies
Oh
on her
my God.
birthday.
Oh my God. Oh, thank- oh, Siddhant has commented fun activities and he's laughing. I'm sure he's imagining what kind of fun activities are happening in the dissection room.
Lot of them
Okay.
actually.
Since we are talking about the horrific scenes in particular, I want to talk about the one that scared me the most. Besides this one, the cadaver one, there's one where the senior girl she goes up to the floor which is abandoned. I mean, she's not there, but she reaches there somehow, and it scared the hell out of me. I mean, she was sleeping, she walks out, and then she lands up somewhere she's not supposed to, and the way then that she dies, it was horrible. So take us through that scene also. How did that come about?
See, that scene you can say, I think I saw your book discussion. You, Siddhant, and the two people, the two guys were discussing about that scene also. So that scene, somehow it can be, all of us can have had an experience of it. I especially have it. So sometimes when I wake up in the night, normally I don't get scared, but sometimes when I wake up in the night and I have to go to the washroom, and so sometimes all those scenes of those horror films that I've seen since childhood, they will keep flowing to me, and then I'll be imagining that there'll be somebody in the washroom and something like that. I'll open the door and there'll be somebody sitting. So a girl with the hair, covering her face will be sitting over there.
Hmm. Hmm.
I've seen a lot of films like this. Since my childhood, I've been seeing a lot of horror films. So that is very, sometimes I really get scared of me, and that is very practical. So I literally sometimes when I'm going to the washroom at night, I chant Hanuman Chalisa. So that's something
Yeah,
because
that is
nobody
what
is
one
there.
of us did
Yeah, I do.
in
I
the
do a lot of
discussion we
times.
were doing.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that was actually very fun. That was a very fun chapter also. Actually, I'll tell you something about it. Night at the Medical Campus is categorized as a horror book, but when I was writing it, horror was the least of my priority to put it because
Hmm.
that always will be there some element because it comes naturally close to me. But I wanted to tell a story from the viewpoint of first year MBBS students who, how the college appears to them and what are the things that goes, the senior junior chemistry,
Hmm.
their chemistry, the teacher student chemistry, and definitely some plots had to come. And of course, it was based on the real incident, inspired from it. So those Tamil, but horror was the least of it. So I'll say that it is perhaps the least horror book that I have written. Of course, it is more of a, I think, mystery and a little bit of thriller. You can say suspense, something like that. So that's what it is about. So all of the scenes that have been written, mostly they have been written with some kind of fun, in the mind. When these two girls go in the night in Sania's bedroom, and they see that somebody is coming inside, they hide beneath the bed, and then there is a dead rat. So all of them are kind of funny scenes for me, fun and horror combined. So that's what.
Okay. So Siddhant is revealing. So I was talking about one of us chanting the Hanuman Chalisa. That was Tanvi. And Siddhant is saying, I remember Tanvi getting scared 24 hours after reading. Yeah, so that's what this book does. While reading, you don't realize, but then it comes back to you later,
See,
and then, oh my God, what is this happening with me?
I'll, I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something. I'm not praising my book or boasting about my way of writing, but that's what a good horror film does to you. Horror film is not a horror film or horror book or horror story is not about the jump scares. Typically we expect that somebody with a bhayanak face will come. So that's not horror actually. So that's something else only. But horror is something which builds over the period of time. When you remember this story or that story of that character from that horror film, when you're alone in the night sleeping, and you just imagine that particular scene or character inside your room happening maybe days, weeks, or even months later. So that's the remark of a true horror content, whether it's a film or whether it's a book. Some of the
Hmm.
fabulous horror stories which I have read, I think they are not even categorized in the horror category. Some of Stephen King books, they don't have any creature or any haunted story. Some of them are about serial killers, but they are the one of the most horror books that have affected me
Hmm.
in my life.
Yeah. And Tanvi is also saying the same thing that I read somewhere horror is successful if it haunts you after reading, not while reading. Okay, so that brings me to the end of the questions that I had for you. You have also read my book. The floor is yours now.
Yeah, yeah. So just before I start reading again, uh, I'll show the cover. You can show the cover.
Yes, let me.
I
Yes,
had to go back in the Kindle version.
I will also have to download the book again.
No, no, it's okay. It's okay. So here is the book,
Yes,
Harmonies and
heartstrings
Heartstrings. Yeah.
and harmonies. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So first of all, I'll tell you a couple of things which I really liked about the book. What was the cover? Definitely, the cover is very simplistic and it clearly reflects the entire theme of the book because all of the stories have a common element that is uh, romance is there, but it's not a kind of romance that always you typical romance that you see in Bollywood commercial movies. It's very personal, it's very dramatic, it's very emotional. Somebody who has loved or somebody who has a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a husband or a wife will only understand this what is there because there are a lot of scenes which all of us can correlate. Anybody who has fallen in love or anybody who has been in a relationship. Second thing what I liked was after some time, I think it's done in kind of parts. The different illustrations that will come, small covers will come. Love is romance and love is I think friendship and other things will come. So that was amazing.
Thank you.
Visualistically, this book is very appealing. Number one. Number two, that this concept of this entire book based upon the songs, that all we have grown up listening, the popular Bollywood songs and other songs. So every story, that is what you mentioned in your introduction also, how you got the inspiration and how you wrote this book. And so that is what love is friendship here. So that was what I liked because I have never read any book like that. It is the first of its kind what I was reading, and the stories are not very long. So the stories are very short, and that is what again I really like nowadays because most of us don't have a time to read long stories and long books nowadays. So something that you can finish very rapidly whenever you have 5 minutes, something like that. So that is the way I read the book. A lot of stories are my favorite, definitely. I'll just so it's very difficult to pick up, So out of these 20 some 28 stories, so what to pick up? But I think one of the stories which really like, and in fact, the first story itself was very
Uh,
captivating. So this guy is listening to this song, and And I also like this story because I'm not a great radio fan, because where I stay in Jaipur, if I put the FM on, there will be have running ads to selling properties. So there will be less very less songs in Jaipur. I don't great fan of it, but all of us I think at some point of time have had a fascination about the voice that we hear on All India Radio or on the different FMs without ever having seen the faces. And this guy meets this girl, in the rain, and then he's telling his child a couple of years later, How I Met Your Mother, right? So the rain falls pitter patter. Another book, a story which I liked was These Threads of Love Entwined with Your Fingers. So I'll just read a couple of lines from the story. Because it's a very nice and sentimental, and it reminded me of a film. I don't remember the name of the film. It was based, it had a South Indian actor and this actress. So this guy basically gets a disease because he's a bodybuilder, and his competitive bodybuilders basically they inject some drug into him, so he becomes a very cobra kind of a thing, and then he takes a revenge on all of them. And then finally, this girl basically, despite his
I'm just
disfigurement.
going to pause you. I'm just going to pause you for a second. Vani is saying it's a lovely discussion. She has to leave. Thank you, Vani, for being here. You can always rewatch it later. Thank you so much, Vani. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So Vani's book, Mr. Joshi's Bride, has just released
Yeah.
a couple of days ago. I
Yeah.
got the book, and I seriously recommend everybody to have a copy of it. It's also in Kindle Unlimited. So
Yes.
yeah. So because that story, it took me back to that film, which I really like very much. And in the end, basically, this girl, this heroine, basically, Vikram is the name of the actor, by the way. And I don't know, I don't remember the name of the movie. Very famous South Indian actor Vikram, and she takes her, and she figures out some treatment that so with so much disfigurement he starts getting better. So that's why I think this story connected with me. I'll Okay, I'll go through the 2 pages of it, to have to acquaint the reader with how the book is actually written, right? First of all, don't go on my singing. I'll just read this lyrics because I'm not a singer,
Okay.
not even a good bathroom singer. Okay, so I'll just read the last part of it because I really want the readers to go through this entire process. 2025. So the story is name is These Threads of Love Entwined with Your Fingers, right? So, and lastly, it is okay, 2025. So this story basically is running in 2 time periods. Uh, okay, mommy. They looked at each other in panic and rushed into the bedroom opposite the kitchen. Their 5-year-old son, Pratham, had a photograph clutched in his tiny hands. Tears streamed down his little face as he looked at the photo with fear and curiosity. Preeti ran to his bed and enveloped him in a hug, while Prathamesh took the photograph from Pratham's hand. The Beauty and the Beast, Prathamesh read out the caption below the photo loudly. Who is that beast with you in the photo, mommy? That is not a beast, Pratham, that's your father. Pratham looked at the person in the photo and then at his father, clearly confused. Let me tell you a story, darling, Preeti began. Prathamesh settled down in the bed too, taking hold of Pratham's hand. It's your parents' version of the Beauty and the Beast, he chuckled and added. Preeti smiled and continued narrating their story, the story of how they became lovers from best friends, and how an accident changed their lives, and most importantly, how once one beauty's determination restored a beast into a human. तू होगा जरा पागल, तूने मुझको है चुना, कैसे तूने अनकहा सब सुना. You must be a little mad that you have chosen me. How did you listen to everything that was unsaid? Prathamesh added his bit to the story, humming the song that started it all. So that is a sample from the book. Kindly download or get the paperback of the book and have the entire, what this entire collection of stories is about. So that's what I was telling you. I was able to correlate, and a lot of other stories are nice. For example, I'll just go with another story which I think somehow I liked. Uh, Huh. So this story also comes a little bit early. In the free sky, let my dreams fly like the birds. So where this girl is basically she's a school teacher and she's getting married, and her little student asks that you will be leaving us also because my sister got married and she left us. And so this entire her anxiety or maybe some kind of worries about that, she's not very much interested in getting married because she knows that she has to leave the job, and the would-be husband, basically the groom, would-be groom, without her requesting or going into detail or mentioning, like a plight that, oh, I don't want to leave my job. He, from his side, only offers it that, okay, fine. So you are working in this place, and I also come here, so that is not a problem, no issues. So that was a very surprising kind of a story, and a very light-hearted kind of a story again. So again, I can go on and on. I think there are so many stories. Every story has something about. For example, that guy fell in love with this girl because she was cooking samosas, something like that. So like that.
Yes.
But I'll tell you why this book is. I'll recommend this book, of course. That this is a very light hearted read, right? It is something that when you come from, let's say, because I work in a very serious profession, so when I come from there, I want something to lead right. So my mind can become lighter, and I want to feel good about life. I want to feel good about people who love, and that's what. So that book gives you basically hope, and this book basically reinstills the notion that what is more important in life are the people around you, and not what you're chasing always, money or any kind of position, because you need little bit money to live your life. You need some kind of work to do, but what you can't earn later on if you miss out early is the people. I'll just add one more
Hmm.
thing, a little bit from the medical side. So there was this famous doctor who had basically attended more than 10,000 people who had passed, in front of him, passed away in front of him, who had witnessed them in their last moments. And each and every one of them, when he asked, what is the thing that you miss the most, or what is the most important earning of your life, almost unanimously everybody said that what we miss the most is the people around us, and what is important is the people and our friends, relatives, lovers around us. None of them mentioned the amount of money that they earn. None of them mentioned that if I was a CEO or I was some kind of minister or something like that, or I had this much money in the bank. So this is what
Hmm.
if we understand this very early in life, we cannot make the mistakes that most of us are doing, rushing madly here and there. Money is important, definitely. It's the fuel for our car, but you need some amount of money, to
Hmm.
stay happy and to get things going. Flaunting unnecessary this and that, and I'm this and I'm doctor and I'm this and this is totally a waste of time. So this is what that's why you should go and read this book, because this
Thank you.
book does that to you.
That means a lot. Thank you so much.
And I
Yeah.
wanted to ask, your questions are still there. Okay,
Yes.
so if you would like to be in one of those stories, you like
Hmm.
to be a character in one of those stories, let's say literally as it is, you're not changing anything from them. So, which one story would you like yourself to be in? Or maybe your favorite story, or which story that maybe moved you the most?
I am just
Anything.
going to have a look at the index. So there is one particular story which is, uh, I mean, a lot of the stories are inspired from experience that I have had in my life. But one of them is majorly inspired, which is the story about the two brothers, Mayank and Manav, and where the younger one is a little, playful and mischievous, and the elder brother is an achiever, academically inclined, and all around, a very well loved, well
What
behaved, and well loved person.
what is the name? I'm forgetting the name of it.
Uh, so it's from that song from Tare Zameen Par. Uh, just a
Okay, okay,
minute.
got it.
I'm also trying to remember now.
Okay, no problem, no problem.
The world's
I
slogan,
got it.
stay vigilant. The world's slogan,
Yes.
stay vigilant. Jame raho
Okay.
from Tare Zameen Par. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I would love to meet both the brothers, especially the younger one, because he's very playful and he has a very dry sense of humor like I have. He's like full of taunts and quirky comebacks. So I like such people a lot. I'm also like that, a little romantic and always playful with people around me. So I think I would fit well with it in that story since I have had a childhood like that, and I will get along well with both the brothers. It would be fun to hang out with them.
Okay. So this book is basically about songs, right? So there is a key element in this book. So which is your favorite song? Maybe from the book or maybe from other than the book, right? Just name
I have
one.
a lot
I know
of
there'll be many songs.
yeah,
Just any
there are
one.
many, but the one that I later realized is one of my favorites and did not make it into the book, which of course I realized after I wrote all the 29 stories. I was like, okay, I didn't put this song. I completely forgot about it. How could I? Because it's one of my favorite songs, and which is Mitwa from Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna. I really
Yeah.
like that song a lot. So
Yeah.
that regret is always going to be there now, but maybe I'll use it later in some other book.
Yeah. So that is also one of my favorite songs and my films also. The funny thing is that when this film was released, I was doing my internship, and that was the time I met my to-be wife. You know, so that
Oh,
was the time when my our romance started during the internship, and later on, of course, we got married. And my wife told me about this because we were just interns, still friends, good friends. You know, so she disliked the film. Many of the women actually at the time they disliked the film because it was about extramarital affair, right? And many of the men loved the film. Yeah, this is fine. This is the way it should be. There was one thing memory about
yeah.
this film and this song.
Nice. I think the movie
Okay,
is more relevant now, and it is getting accepted more now. I think it was not for the time when it came out.
ahead of its time. Another film
Yeah.
I'll just because you're talking about films ahead of its time. There was a film I don't know if you've seen or not, but you should see this film. That film is still ahead of its time. That film is 1991 or 1992 film called Lamhe by Yash Chopra, and it stars Anil Kapoor and Sridevi.
Seen.
So
I've
you have seen, right?
seen the
So
movie.
that film
Yeah.
is still very ahead of time. You know,
Yeah.
after
It
that,
is.
such kind of film has till date not been made, right?
Mhm.
And I would like to see that kind of film. You know, I was so young when I saw this film. I was in like fourth class or something like that, right? And I saw that film because we had a VCR at home in those days. There were video cassettes and VCRs. I saw the film. I don't know. At that age, I liked that concept.
Yeah, it's a lovely movie. I apparently, of course, it didn't do very well at that time. Now it is getting loved a lot.
Yeah. If it releases in theaters, no, I'll tell you because now a lot of in India, a lot of old films are getting re-released and they are doing so fantastic. You know, they are making more money now than they were released during this. This movie is going to go blast the theaters. Okay, see, I want to ask always when I talk with writers, I want to ask, all these questions are there, but I also want to ask some questions related to the writing and publishing because for many of us publishing and all these things is also very crucial because if we have created a book we want the book to sell, we want a lot of people to read also, maybe not for money but for many people money is also fine, okay, because it is ultimately a product and it is your right to earn some money out of it, especially when everybody else is making money on your book, you also have a right. I would like to ask you one question, Manali, that and give me a very honest answer. Uh, what you think is still you would like to change about the Indian publishing scenario? Something which should be in more favor of the authors, because what I believe is that authors actually are not getting the major part of the piece of the cake of the book. I know the books really don't sell in India, right? The way they do where you live, maybe you're an American, something like this. But still, authors often end up, not making this book commercially profitable for themselves.
Mhm.
How can we do that? How can we do that? What is one thing you feel can be changed in the Indian publishing scenario? How to sell, basically, how to sell our books more. Book market कैसे करें, sell कैसे करें?
I
Yeah.
think with more recognition on everyone's part would be great because even when a book is getting adapted, the author is not getting that much limelight, I feel. I mean, and that if that mindset can change, no, I think a lot of books would sell much better. Acceptance from all around, acceptance from other creative fields, more exposure to the creative fields for the authors and writers, I think that would make a lot of difference. I feel that, as compared to the other forms of art, writing is not given as much respect. मुझे पता नहीं क्यों ऐसा लगता है. Like there is movie making, there is painting, there is so much more. There is lyricists, there is singing. I think these professions are looked at in a different light from writing. मुझे ऐसा लगता है. And if that kind of acceptance comes, if the films that are getting inspired by books give as much credit to the main author of the book from whose work the book is whose work the movie or the series is getting adapted, that would make a lot of difference, because that will ultimately encourage the watchers of those adaptations also go back to the main source from which it is getting adapted. And if they are able to enjoy that particular book, they will continue reading, right? They will become a reader for life then. That is a win all around for many other books, many other authors.
Absolutely.
And
And I would like to add my input into it. What we can do better so that the Indian authors are, of course, writing. They continue to write more and more. They should not lose
yeah.
out heart that, my book is not selling. I'm
Hmm.
ending up losing money in the entire publishing process and all those things. I think most of the writers like us should also, just the way we are doing, we should also promote more of Indian writers. I think
Yeah,
our Instagram should be more
exactly.
flooded
Yeah.
with Indian books and with newcomers, with aspiring authors and writers, not with
Yeah.
the same Stephen King and J.K. Rowling, because they don't need our support and
Yeah.
recommendations. Yeah,
Yeah.
not even Chetan Bhagat and Amish
Supporting
Tripathi.
indie authors. Supporting indie authors, new
Yeah,
authors, aspiring authors is very important.
yeah. Not even Chetan Bhagat. By the way, he's one of my favorite authors, right? And Chetan Bhagat and Amish Tripathi, they need our support. But authors like us, they need each other's support, so that not
Yeah.
only read more and more of their books, but we also give a kind of shout out whenever and wherever possible, because the readers, let's say, they are looking forward to us, right? Let's say you have a reader base, I have a little reader base. They're looking forward to us. If
Hmm.
I am only the one who will be screaming the name of Western authors all the time, they will think in the mind that this is what they also are reading. Our authors also are reading. So why should we should go and read more Indian
Yes.
authors? That's a very important thing. And thanks to you, Manali, because for having this kind of collaborations. These are the kind of collaborations that are ultimately, the aim is to spread the love of literature, because literature gives you something, it gives me something, and we want more people to benefit out of it, and
Yes.
that's it.
Yeah. So if even one person is able to start reading through our books, I think they might become a better, voracious reader later on in life. I mean, if they are starting with our book, imagine how many books are out there for them to explore from then on.
And they'll become a better person. It's not
Yeah.
just about being a voracious reader, because I became a better person after I started reading. So that's what I want to
Yes.
recommend. So it's
Yes.
for your own benefit, and definitely kindly support Indian authors, because we need your support.
We do. And it's a wrong misconception. I don't know when we are going to grow out of this conception that, always something that is from outside our subcontinent is better. I don't think that's true. We have many good, creative people in our own country. So let's explore those first and encourage those and support those first. It's not necessary that तुम European author or American authors ही पढ़ो. I mean, they are also good. There's no doubt about that. But उसमें भी खराब authors भी हैं और अच्छे भी हैं. वैसा ही इंडिया में भी है.
See, we only know the good authors, the best of the authors, right?
Yeah.
And because there are millions of authors out there, we only know a handful of them. So that's what.
Yeah. Yes.
That's it.
True. Okay, so that brings me to the favorite part, which is the rapid fire round. I love doing these with my guests. So, are you ready for those?
Yeah,
How we'll
sure.
go about this, Siddharth, is we'll do back and forth. One question I ask, one question you ask. Okay?
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
So, my first question to you, you have already mentioned that the story is inspired from something you heard. It's based on an anecdote that you have heard related to a medical campus. So I want to know, does this haunted well exist? And have you visited it? And what was the experience like? So for
Well,
the
I'll tell you.
other people who have not read the book, I'll just build a context first. There's a well in the story where the spirit of is supposedly trapped, and that is the haunted place from where the story begins.
Okay. So to be very honest, this entire incident took place in another college, and there is a well, but only thing is that it is in another college. And although two
Okay,
are not related, but my, the author's mind is that to just connect the both of them together. So there
okay.
is a well
You
that
visited the
exists.
well. You have
Yeah,
visited the
yeah,
well. Oh my
absolutely.
God.
I like to visit those places, all 100 places.
Another interesting question coming up later then. Okay, your turn.
Okay, I'd like to ask basically that who is your favorite author that you maybe initially or maybe even now look forward to? Any now it can be European also. We don't have any grudges against Gora authors. Kindly be free to answer. Your favorite author you always look forward to.
So I'm a 90s kid, and in those days, I think we were encouraged more to read outside authors. I don't agree with that. I think parents, as people who are having kids today, I think we should encourage our children and the children of our generation later that, read Indian authors. It's okay, read Indian books also. But we were encouraged to read outside books. ये तो
Yeah,
है.
okay, okay. Just
Yeah,
name the
so
author. Name one or two
just
authors.
because of that reason, I have two favorite authors from my childhood, which were Enid Blyton and Sydney Sheldon, and then there was Nicholas Sparks. These three authors are the ones that I have read the most. Later, of course, it was J.K. Rowling, but Harry Potter came into my life a bit later after I became a reader. But these were the three: Enid Blyton, Sydney Sheldon, and Nicholas Sparks. They are somebody that I always admire. So yeah, those books, and then of course I later discovered Indian authors like Anuja Chauhan, Chetan Bhagat, and these are the authors that look forward to even today. Their books, if they come out, I look forward to them, and just as excited to read them even now.
Okay,
Okay,
up to you now.
so my next question to you is one character death from the book The Night at Medical Campus that you feel that should not have happened or could have been better handled, and why?
Again, the honest answer is that I don't have any control over that. Somebody has to die, he has to die, she has to die.
Okay. But any particular depth that you felt like, maybe I could have done it differently or in more detail, anything like that?
I think I could have made Simran's death even more brutal. That's what I wanted to do.
Oh my God. It
But I
already gave
sprayed
us.
that. I sprayed that because it was a birthday. I could have made it more brutal.
Oh, okay. I wonder what that would have been like. I mean, it already gave us sleepless nights. Something more brutal, I don't know what it would have done to our psyche. Okay, your turn.
Your favorite film?
Film. Many, but if I had to pick one across all, I think there are two across all times, which is Dil Chahta Hai and Hera Fairy. Like two different genres that I enjoy completely. So these two.
You mentioned about Dil Chahta Hai and Hera Fairy. Dil Chahta Hai in 2 days I saw it 3 times in theater, and Hera Fairy first part I'm telling you about. So that film also is one of the very few films which I have seen like more than once. This Hera Fairy. The third one being my favorite, one of my all-time favorites, which I was glued to when I saw in theaters was Sarfarosh, Amir Khan's.
Uh,
That was unbelievable movie. You know, so yeah, definitely. I think mine and your liking are similar.
Happy to hear that. Okay. My next question to you is the one thing that you would say to make people read more horror, like people like me, for instance.
Okay. I'll just twist the answer a little bit.
Hmm.
I have a lot of good friends who are crime authors, like Anirban Bhattacharya is one of them. He's a creator of Southern India and Crime Patrol. Alok Lal sir is there, yeah, ex-cop, and they are fantastic crime authors I'm friends with. And I do read them because they're my friends. But true crime is something which I don't read because it really gives me scared because I know that true crime can happen with me, or with my family. So I really get scared of true crime, and that's why I like to read horror, and I recommend it to others. That because see, horror is something which you may get scared of, but it is like a roller coaster. When you're on a roller coaster and you're going high up, you have this fear that you will fall and die. But ultimately, at the back of your mind, you are relaxed that, okay, I have the seat belts with me. There are a lot of safety instruments. Nothing is going to happen to me. So horror is like that. So even if you're scared of watching a horror film or reading a horror book and you're alone at your house, ultimately somewhere at the in the bottom of your in the heart, it will be like, see, ghosts ultimately don't exist. Nobody has seen a ghost or died because of a ghost in real life. But in true crime, when you're reading it, it can actually happen with you. So I recommend to you that horror is actually a kind of a simulation of that, you can feel yourself in that ghastly kind of a situation, but it also gives you this assurance that, see, nothing is going to ultimately happen to you. Because I, as a horror author, says that, see, I have grown up since my childhood. From 5 years of age, I've been seeing so many horror films and now reading a lot of books also. Nothing has happened to me. I haven't seen a ghost until now, so nothing is going to happen to you. So relax this, enjoy this genre. I'll tell you one more thing about horror. Horror basically is a very super niche genre in the entire world. Maybe it's films or maybe it's books. Very less people watch it, very less people read it. So it is not a commercially very profitable genre, right? But
Hmm.
people who are fans of this genre, like me, they are the most diehard fans as compared to any other genre. I haven't seen those kind of fans, right? I know a lot of people who are horror authors and readers, and they are so diehard fans of genre that they would always go and read a book or maybe watch a film anywhere it is in the part of a world. And the kind of conversations that we horror authors have had, because I have a lot of them. I have hosted a horror online horror literature festival, India's first. I was the host of it, and I conducted the kind of conversation that we have. We can sit have conversations entire night. So the fans of horror are less in number, but they are really so die hard. So do give this genre a chance. This is not something that is going to kill you if you read it. This is not something that is going to haunt you, right? It will actually make you a stronger person. You will become more fearless after reading, because I became more fearless after watching so many films and so many books. So yes, for horror.
Great pitch. I think you were talking about Anirban, and he's also here. And he's saying that horror does not get the respect as a genre that it deserves.
But
And
I'll
it
tell
is one
you,
of the most difficult to write.
yeah, yeah, but Anirban has, I don't have his book right now, but he's written a book in the horror genre, Enter at Your Own Risk, which is blasting the charts on Amazon. And he is pretty much himself a very good horror writer. And that's what I was telling Anirban at basically two books. Basically, I'm still yet to read his next book because I know about the story, what is next, his another book, what was released at the same time, because I'm actually scared of this Tinder murder story, right? A swipe right to kill. But the horror book I devoured in one go, and I took out the review. So Anirban, that review is also coming. But yeah, the Under at Your Own Risk was a fantastic book.
Okay, I have to check this out then. Lovely. Okay, I think it's your turn now.
Hmm. Yeah. So I actually know the answer, but for the sake of anybody maybe who doesn't know the pretext of this book, is that how you got the idea, the initial idea of writing this book?
Yeah, so a couple of factors actually were involved. First of all, I am a music lover. Like, there's any hardly any hour during the day, or that I'm not listening to music unless I need my focus to be on one task completely. The music is always on in the background whenever I'm doing anything. It's cooking or doing my workouts or anything else, reading. The music is always on in the background. So I'm a music lover, and uh, music has been a part of the previous core of my books. Before this, also, music was a very important part of my books, and I wanted to continue that. So when this particular prompt came to me from a writing community that I'm a part of, it was based. The prompt was that write a story inspired by your favorite song, and I wrote that first story, which is also a part of this book. And the story was around my one of my all-time favorite songs, which is Ye Sham Mastani. When I wrote that song, when I wrote that story, I enjoyed it very much. I enjoyed the process of trying to make the song as much a part of the story, along with the lyrics that match the mood and setting of the story. And I enjoyed that process. And once the story was published on my blog and everyone liked it a lot, I thought maybe it's not a bad idea to continue doing this for more songs. Why just stop at one song itself? There are so many songs that I really like, and there are so many songs that have stories attached to them, memories attached to them. Why not make this concept into a book of stories which are like that, where the songs are a part of people's stories, people's memories, and they always go back to that one particular song when they think of the people that they love. So that's how the book came about.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Okay, yeah, I think Anirman has said thank you. I am following in your footsteps. Lovely.
Oh, so kaha Raja Bose, Anirban, kaha Gangu Teli, Siddharth Nirwan. Okay, fine, but I'll take it.
Okay, my next question to you is, since you already mentioned that you let the stories like these come to you, now I want to know, tell us about a visit to any spooky place or a travel experience that stands out for you, and maybe it will become the plot of your stories in the coming years. It has not yet become, but it might become.
Yeah, I have mentioned it several times on several shows. It's actually not a spooky place. I've been to spooky places. One of them was with Anirban actually. We went to Bhangar together. He was in Jaipur. So, because one of the stories is based in Bhangar, so he wanted to do a research also. So, we went to Bhangar. It was an amazing place. And Kuldhara, I've been to these places and so called unnamed, unpopular spooky places. I've written a book actually, Dead Never Die, whose, by the way, cover you see right now. So,
My
which is
God, that's
on
a very scary cover.
which is on Audible and Kindle. That is based upon. It is a fiction book, three stories, fiction stories, but they're based upon three actual locations, which has got some kind of rumors around them. So I've been to those places. But the one experience which I had was when I was in Kota, while preparing for my medical entrance examination. And it's a long story. I'll just cut it short. So there was this guy who came. He was. We were in 12th class when we reached Kota, and this guy basically came and he was preparing for IIT. So the people who were staying before us, our seniors, basically who had dropped and they were preparing for coaching, they used to do some kind of mini ragging to us. And this guy basically, they asked him, they did some kind of mini ragging to him. And then during this introduction and kind of ragging, he told them that he knows how to do planchet. So planchet basically is summoning a ghost by means of some kind of using some articles. And one night before, on a Saturday night, I was preparing for this weekly tests in my coaching center. So what I discovered is that the entire hostel was empty. I went outside. So in the gallery outside, everybody was sitting surrounding these 20-25 people, and this guy was sitting, and those two seniors were also sitting with him. And then there was this empty katora, and this katora was lying upside down,
Hmm.
and there were several marks made. This guy basically, his name was Danish. He's placed his finger over the katora. Those two other seniors also had placed a finger over the katora. There were several alphabets written and numbers written, and they were asking some kind of questions. I joined in very later, so I didn't understand what is going on actually. I thought they were playing some cards or maybe they were drinking something or something like that. And this they were moving the katora, right? And the look on the senior's face, it gave away the entire thing that was going on. Their face, entire sweat was dripping from their faces, right? They were shit scared because the questions that were being asked, they were being answered correctly, right? By whatever. And this guy had come for the first day. Obviously, this guy doesn't know anything about those seniors. And then when I heard about later on, what this guy declares in the end is that the spirit that we have summoned is in the Katora has refused to leave for tonight. So she will stay in the hostel tonight. And
Oh
everybody
God.
was woke up awake during the entire night, and everybody was pretending because on Sundays we used to have our weekly tests in the coaching center, all of us. So we were pretending that we are preparing for the test. That is why we are not sleeping. We are not afraid. But nobody slept. 20-25 people. Nobody slept in the hostel that night. You know, and that was the real experience that I had, and that was the only experience which I can say. I don't know what it was. Kind of a paranormal experience that I had. No ghost seen yet. Somebody has mentioned, but
Hmm.
yeah, a paranormal experience that I have seen in reality. The planchet thing, you should not. You have this disclaimer. No, don't try this at home. Don't ever
Hmm.
try planchet at home because this world does exist, because I'm also again friends with a lot of paranormal investigators. This world does exist. Scientifically also it exists. It has to exist, right? But the only thing is that just don't for fun don't interact with this world. It won't do anything to you, right? But if you have a weak heart and you tend to get scared easily, then everything has happened.
My God. Oh. Anyway, we have a question from Nilshri, who was also one of the people who discussed the book. She's asking if any incident happened with you while writing this book, Night at the Medical Campus.
Uh, See, nothing happened like me writing this book. See, I'll tell you something about it, which is actually might not be relevant to this story and this entire discussion. I wrote this book. I told you initially that I was not thinking of writing a horror book. I wanted to write a fun-filled story based on medical students. I wrote it during the 2001 COVID second wave. So I was posted in this Apex hospital in Rajasthan, in Jaipur, where all these patients were admitted, COVID, this Delta wave patient. It was a 1200 bedded COVID patients, and where I was posted. This mortuary was near next to my station, and every 5 minutes one body was coming, wrapped up in white clothes, right? Every 5 minutes, one or two bodies were literally flowing during the 8 hour shift that we had. Literally, we will see more than close to 50 to 100 bodies. That was a scene that was going on at that time, and I was literally seeing real horror in front of me, right? So to somehow get out of that mindset, because I would be returning, I again, for maybe for a singer, he likes to sing, to forget hard things in life. For a musician, he likes to play music. For a writer, what is left to read and write. So I wanted to take my mind off the real horror that I was seeing. There were kids that were coming, small bodies wrapped in this white sheet that were coming. That was literally a horrific scene. After some time, you also become unsympathetic, kind of. Your heart becomes stoneless, right? It becomes stone. You don't feel anything. So to get out of the mindset, I was thinking of writing this thing, and this story just naturally came in because I had heard about this incident. So I was writing to just take my mind off it. So that was the mindset at which I had written this story. You won't see anything of it in the book, but that was it. So nothing like scared me or difficult. It was difficult for me. I was like in another world at the time.
Nilshri has a follow-up question to that. Curious to know if writing horror genre scares the author themselves.
Uh, author, it scares me. Scare another person. So definitely it scares. The thing is that horror authors and horror fans, they love to get scared, right? If we don't get scared, then we will not be reading, we will not be watching, we will not be writing also. So definitely scare is there. But we, for like, let's say for a drinker, he can't go without alcohol. So he likes to drink and he likes to have that kind of a feeling. So we have the scare. It's not that we don't get scared anymore, right? I already mentioned that whenever I wake up in the night and I go to washroom, every day I'll be like
Hanuman
doing a
Chalisa.
Hanuman Chalisa or a Hare Krishna Hare Rama. So definitely I get scared, right? But we really like it. If there is a food which is very spicy and you like to eat it and it burns your mouth, but you like to eat it because you like to eat it, right? So that's why we get scared definitely, but we love getting scared. That's why we watch and read and write the stuff.
Okay. I think it is your turn.
Yeah. So I would like to ask you. There is one last question that I want to ask you because still there are a lot of questions, and we can have the discussions later on also. But I'll ask you one again, a very technical question. I'll ask you, because I always have a lot of discussions, technical discussions with authors whenever I have to get a chance to talk to them, which of course I get very less nowadays because of busy schedules. Uh, what is your opinion about self-publishing versus traditional publishing?
First of all, self-publishing in itself is not that bad. I don't want to say that one should always go for traditional publishing, and it's always good to have a thought in mind. Why do you want to publish? Okay, that I think should be clear in your mind when you're writing a book and want to publish it. Having said that, I do have certain opinions about publishing by paying, which is vanity publishing. I don't believe in that. I am of the thought that you have already put in your best in writing the book, in writing, in putting your creative thoughts in the form of a book. So I think that is your effort ends there. I feel you are not supposed to pay somebody to publish what you have already put so much work into. So I am against that. Having said that, there are publishing platforms which do not ask you for money for publishing your work. I am all for those. But if you are somebody that is willing to invest monetarily for getting published, and you feel that the money that you are putting in is worth the returns that you will get in some time, why not? I mean, if your purpose of getting published is just to have that tag of an author in front of your name, why not? Nothing wrong with that. If you have written a good book, it will get the recognition, it will get you the money, it will get you the tag of being a good author. It doesn't matter how you are going by it. You just have to be smart enough to see that the way you are choosing will lead to your ultimate purpose of being an author. Is it just because you want to, for your vanity's sake, you are doing it? Then, of course, this is a very good way. But if you are going with the purpose of, having your book reach more people, I think the traditional way is the best way, because they have they do have a better reach than self-publishing platforms. They will make sure they will support you in a manner that self-publishing platforms might not be able to. So yeah, knowing your purpose is always better before choosing what type of publishing you are going for.
Okay.
But then again, there are good and bad books in both kinds of publishing. That also I have seen. I have seen self-published authors who are way better than traditionally published authors, and I have seen self-published authors whose book I read and I'm like, why did you want to get published in the first place? Because you need to improve on your craft a lot more before publishing. That's the thought that comes to my head. So you have to be self-aware also at one point or another. You have to be self-aware also whether you are good enough to publish this or not.
Okay. I think I'll just add a little bit to it. Then I'll finish off because it's over from my side. I think what's different is that it's about the geography also.
Hmm.
Because in India, self-publishing is not yet a big thing yet,
Hmm.
right? But if you go to US, right, self-publishing really is something that it's like many people have made it a proper business and they're earning money out of it. They've made a proper career out of it
Hmm.
because just like a startup, it's a proper step-by-step journey that if you follow and you do it rightly, then it can be not only be profitable because that was I was asking you earlier that why it
Hmm.
should not be profitable for the author. If I want to earn money out of it, why should not I?
Hmm.
And that's the main thing about I think India in self-publishing through Amazon or other things is still not a very big thing.
Hmm.
But there are many people who have cracked the code and they are doing far much better than traditionally published authors. I
Yeah.
personally know, right? So it's not about I don't. I am a self-published author also. I'm a traditionally published author also. I still have plans to do some kind of self-publishing. I want to thank, by the way, because you mentioned traditional publishing, my literary agent for the Book Bakers literary agency, Sohail Mathur. Sohail Mathur has been literally a guiding force for me since the start. If I did not meet this guy, did not have the conversation with this guy, I would have given up after publishing my first book because the first book definitely you don't know anything about the world, right? Publishing world, you don't know anybody.
Hmm.
So it was one of my favorite books which I re-released through him again, but I ended up not only losing money because it was more of a vanity publishing that like you mentioned.
Hmm.
Although the publisher was fantastic again, Notion Press is really a great, very technical and very professional people. I still am in touch with them. I met the person also before this deal was done. I really recommend if you want to go to vanity publishing, go to Notion Press. They're amazing people. I still touch with them. But Sohail Mathur has been the guiding force. He has always encouraged me, inspired me to write more and more. And through him, I made all kind of connections with other authors. And definitely, because we are talking about Night at the Medical Campus, I want to give shout out to my publisher, Mr. Jitendra Anand. Again, he's one of the finest traditional publishers out there in the country right now. Right, he's a person who always will reply to you. He's very flexible. To any person who is aspiring to become an author and want to go, kindly Book Street Publications is really something that you must look out for because see ultimately what matters for authors now is that his voice is also listened because
Yeah.
sometimes if you happen to end up with a really publisher with a big aura and you don't have any voice, right? You just have no option
Hmm.
but to sit quietly and wait, and nothing else you can do, right? So that's all. So I just want to thanks Mr. Sohail Mathur and Mr. Jitendra Anand right now, and all of the people. I want to thank Audible. Audible literally brought a fresh breather to my this book whose cover I'm showing. It was written in 2 months during the COVID time. Put it out on Kindle, and I thought it is something the disastrous thing that I've written because most of the people were not liking it. But Audible made the call to myself that we want to acquire this book because we think this book is something good. And I want to
Wow.
thank all of the publishers, and I want to thank all of you. I want to thank you, Manali, Siddhant, and everybody who has read my books, all the fan base, and anybody who supported me or us and all of us in one form or another. So that's pretty much from my side, I think.
Okay, I just have one last question because we cannot end without asking for recommendations. So I want three horror recommendations, three for books, three for movies, and three for shows.
Okay. I, I'll recommend some of the finest horror authors nowadays I'm reading is are Indian authors because I know them. I personally met with them. I sat with them. I know their mentality. I know them inside out. So first author I want to recommend is this guy called Nikhil Upreti. Nikhil Upreti is a person who writes in Hindi as well as in English. He also writes scripts for films, and he also has some fantastic blockbuster podcasts on Spotify and Ghana and all those things. So Nikhil Preti, again, a very fantastic person. Second person is Abhirup Dhar. Abhirup Dhar basically, again, is a very, I know him. I know what his mentality is there. We have sat together and we have had drinks together. So I know his passion for horror. His passion for horror is very ardent, right? He's a hardcore horror enthusiast and fan from his heart. And the third author that I want to mention, although he's written only one book, but that book was mind blowing, and that book is still one of my favorite books. That is Abhishek Singh. Abhishek Singh has written this book called Possessed, and the best thing about Possessed is that he has written it in a very raw manner. Raw manner means whatever you feel from inside, right? So he has just written it, right? He has not thought what the society would think about me. He has
Hmm.
just given his dark side to the world. So that's how the book should be written. What was the other thing apart from three authors? Three books?
Three authors, three movies, and three shows.
Three movies. Okay. Three movies, I'll say, see again, horror, lots of them. At first, I want to mention not one single movie, but all the Ramsey brother films. I have grown up watching them from
Yes.
fifth year, since I was five, and this one film called Purana Mandir. Purana Mandir was the first horror film that I saw at the age of 6 years. It literally blew my mind. I was seeing a lot of films also because I used to see that age also, but this film blew my mind. It was something outstanding I've seen out of this world. Second film which actually gave me scare, it was during MBBS. I was there in one of my friend's room, and this is the year 2002 and 3 when there were, of course, very less people used to have desktop in the rooms. Laptops
Hmm.
were not there at the time. So I saw this film along with him in daytime. We bunked the classes and we saw this film. I had no idea about this film, Grudge, the original movie. It just, you should not watch it actually. If you're literally, I'm telling you, if Night at the Medical Campus literally really scared you, even a little bit, you should not
Yeah.
watch Grudge, right? You should
Oh
not.
my.
It will just give you terrible nightmare. Just don't even see for the trailer. And the third film, which actually I believe, which I really liked, was this. Again, I saw it when I was very young. Was this film called Raat by Ram Gopal Verma?
Yeah.
There are no scary faces. There is
Uh,
no nothing,
that
but
one.
that acting and direction is top
Yeah.
class, right?
Yeah.
So
Love.
Raat.
Very
And what
nice
is the third thing, Rati? So I have a very Ghazni like
movie.
memory nowadays.
Three shows or three series.
Oh, I can answer it. I can answer it because, and I'll answer it. See, there are a lot of series and shows I've seen again, but one show that I just saw it, and I saw it very later. Of course, it's a show everybody has seen. I don't know why I missed it earlier, but my son actually is 12 years old. He introduced me to the show, by the way. The show is
Okay.
Breaking Bad,
After.
and
Yeah.
Breaking Bad. I haven't seen anything like that, right? The
Hmm.
second series which I'm actually watching right now, so I'll take its name. It's Peaky Blinders. Again, I think Peaky Blinders. Cillian Murphy is one of the finest actors of our times. And the third show would be a horror show I have to recommend, and it was again I was very young in seventh class when I was watching. So on Sony used to come, and the
But
show was Ahat. Ahat. So Ahat was there is one of its episode basically that is based upon the medical students. I mentioned this thing in the story somewhere. I
book
just
is, yeah, it's mentioned
yeah,
in the book. You have
and
mentioned this particular
yeah, yeah,
episode.
this mentioned. Ahad was amazingly crafted. I don't know why did they stop it later on, but Ahad was one of the finest shows ever made in India.
It was really, really good. I mean, it gave me sleepless nights, so obviously it was that good. Had to
And
be.
again, Fear Files by Anirban Bhattacharya. There have been very less people who had the dare to make horror shows in India because, rightly mentioned, they are not very profitable. But these people have given space to horror, so we should really salute them. At least the horror fans. Fear Files and Ah Heart and Z Horror Show again by the Ramsey brothers. So I really respect them. I don't know what people talk about them nowadays, but I really respect these people. People who are putting their heart, effort, and money, most importantly, on the line to make these shows come alive.
Yes. Thank you for those amazing recommendations. I have seen only a few of those shows and have read none of the books, so I'm going to keep those in mind definitely. It was great having you, Siddharth. Thank you for coming on the show. I look forward to having you again. Are we expecting any new book coming out from you soon?
Again, I'm telling you, I'm with a big publisher, so I'm on the publisher's mercy. I don't have any ideas about that. Yeah.
Okay. Look forward to the next book whenever it is coming out, and all the best for all your writing endeavors. Keep writing. I look forward to having you again. Bye. Thanks, and have a
Okay.
great
Bye.
weekend.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Bye.
Good night. Good night.
Yeah.